Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Kimmy Nguyen, Vice President of Product Growth at Fastly, and I'm really excited to lead today's conversation about computed edge and the future of serverless. I've been here since the early days of Fastly, and the vision of computed edge has been baked into our DNA from day one. Joining me today are three leaders at organizations who've been innovating on Fastly's serverless compute environment. We'll take this opportunity to learn more about their experiences, discuss where they see the market heading. Gentlemen, thanks so much for your time. How about we start with some brief introductions?
I'm Pablo. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Vox Media. I've been at Vox Media since the beginning when we literally started in a basement maybe 13 years ago, and it's been really fun to build the business along the way. Fastly's been a key partner for us, so I'm very happy to be participating in this conference.
I'm Phil. I work for Mux, which is a small San Francisco-based startup. I've been in the streaming video industry for about 10 years now. I've worked at places like the BBC, then at Brightcove, a very big OVP, who's also a partner at Fastly, and then obviously at Mux, and we, among other things, build video services. So, an API-driven video platform as opposed to kind of your more traditional OVPs, and also kind of analytics systems for kind of the biggest customers like Fox for the Super Bowl, CBS for the Super Bowl the year before.
Hi, my name is Ido Saprudi. I'm CTO and founder of PerimeterX.
As more and more organizations get access to computed edge, we see that different companies are intrigued for different reasons. Some tell us speed is most important. Some tell us security is the reason they want to build on it. Others say it's the fact that it operates on the edge. So I really want to hear what aspects of computed edge are most attractive to you and your teams.
I think computed edge is attractive to us for a variety of reasons. I think to us, like, as closest to the edge as we can get, it allows us to optimize for performance, right? So we primarily deal with media, right? Video files, audio files, and the closer that they are cached to the user, obviously the better the performance for the kind of the end viewer, which means less buffering, which everyone wants, right? But it's a little bit more than that, because there's a lot of devices out there. There's smart TVs, there's set-top boxes, there's hundreds of different types of smartphones, and sometimes you need to manipulate that media to make it work optimally for a particular device. And for us, what's most exciting about doing more at the edge is pushing that media manipulation to the edge, right? So if we have to have 3 different formats of a video, which is believable, we're going to have to cache that 3 times, going to have to do 3 round trips to the origin, depending on, which device is playing it and where and how and those sorts of things. So being able to manipulate things like media, but also manifests closer to the edge is really important to us, because it improves round trip time for streaming, but also it reduces cache footprint, which is huge, right? If you're storing 3 copies of every object in cache, that's challenging, and reduces your cache performance, but also increased cost ultimately, because you've got things fall out of cache more frequently, and you end up just spending more time doing round trips as well. So really for us, it's a combination of doing it as close as we can to the user, but also doing as much of it on the edge as we can, to improve performance, but also improve that cache footprint.
Fastly is not just a CDN for Vox Media. I consider it to be a business delivery network. Our portfolio of brands, The Verge, New York Magazine, Vox.com, our concert advertising partners, our SaaS customers reach millions and millions of people every day with our podcasts and videos and digital media content. And their first point of contact, all this traffic goes through Fastly. So it's exciting to have computed edge capabilities available to us to create and optimize our experiences for these audiences right there at the edge, right at this first point of contact. It has enormous potential from a performance perspective. Obviously, having logic and caching executed right close at the first point of contact is fantastic from a performance perspective. But it also has enormous potential from a creativity perspective, and that's really what excites me. This is like having computed edge is like having a middleware stack suddenly available for our entire business. I know many of you all and engineers out there have built systems where inserting some new logic upstream can be brittle. Then you put in a middleware kind of stack, and it gives you the flexibility to insert and remove logic where you need it to be, and that kind of enables a lot of flexibility and safety in what you build, and that is what I see with the capabilities that Computed Edge provides. Suddenly, our developers and creative thinkers can insert business logic or test out new functionality with increased and I think fantastic agility. And also, this is the kicker, this is really the promise of serverless with great confidence in the performance and stability that's inherent in the Fastly network. So it's really exciting.
So for us, the benefit and the reason we're so excited about Computed Edge is the ability to run our code and enhance the Fastly ecosystem for our customers without the need of adding another shim or another application from our end in it. And by that, enhancing without complicating. The ability to add complexity or logic, security logic for our security products, if it's bot mitigation or detection of malicious code on the client side, being able to introduce these capabilities without the customers needing to change anything on their backend, on their application, and being able to handle all this malicious traffic or malicious activity on the edge, away from their data center and away from the application, is what excites us and what makes it so so great for us and so amazing for us, the ability to run on the edge.
Part of the reason I was so excited to be on this panel was that you're all in different phases of trialing Computed Edge. Some of you are being creative and dreaming, others are testing and building. And I really want to hear about what you've done so far and what you're planning to do next.
So we're very much in a prototyping phase, as many people are. We have very complex VCL logic right now, everything from authentication through to manifest manipulation, which is rewriting text files that control how video is delivered to end users. So the first thing we really want to do is take that logic and move it into something that's more unit testable and more deployable on different platforms and that sort of thing. So taking all that kind of years of VCL that we've developed and turning it into something that's way more future facing. The next steps beyond that really start to be kind of more aggressive per user authentication. I'm super interested, obviously, in finding out kind of what Ido's got in kind of a security perspective there, because that's really interesting and important to us. So that if you're watching a stream, you've got the rights to watch that stream, that sort of thing. And obviously, then down the road, it's really about thinking about media manipulation at the edge.
We're also in a prototyping mode, and it's been really exciting so far. We see a lot of potential. We prototyped content API gateway type functionality, authentication and authorization layers. That's been really interesting. We're really excited about content stitching services. This is something we're prototyping as well, that can selectively stitch content, advertising logic together, et cetera. This area is exciting. We do a lot of content customization and content translation for different outputs, and we need to tailor content for devices, network conditions, location, et cetera. We also personalize content and personalize functionality, et cetera. Being able to do that at the edge, and importantly in a way that's flexible, that can be integrated with ease and safety and with great developer economics, is huge for us. And also, we are also very excited about making our VCL logic more accessible to our wider engineering team. So that's going to be important for us as well.
So like Phil and Pablo, we're also in the prototyping phase and exploring and testing it with a couple customers. Because of the nature of our business, we are adding logic to our customers' edge, which are joint Fastly customers. So originally what we did is we implemented our entire logic in VCL, which made it a bit complex, especially when customers may have their own business logic on VCL and may have complex VCL. What we did so far is enhance that and leverage the edge, computed edge, to simplify that, as well as to enhance it and add capabilities that were not necessarily available in VCA, like API calls to our origin, to our cloud service, to enhance the decision whenever the decision at the edge it couldn't be fully determined. This is simplifying the integration. This is making it much easier and as well as more flexible and adding more capabilities. Another application that we're doing with Edge is actually leveraging Edge dictionaries to enhance and to start introducing more state into this decision by pushing some security logic and security rules in a very dynamic way, and not a static configuration that is there for there. And this is where we're also leveraging and taking advantage of the snappiness of configuration updates done by Fastly and the ability of code to write and read from Edge dictionaries. That helps us push decisions and make it even more independent and in the Edge, not requiring or eliminating some of these API calls that we tend to use before.
Our roadmaps are built hand in hand with our customers. So I'd love to hear, where do you see Fastly taking Computed Edge in the future?
I think for us, it's probably going to be a different answer to everyone out here, but one of the most important things for us is getting everyone in this market involved in the Bytecode Alliance, right? Being a media company, multi-CDN is critical, and Fastly is a big part of that multi-CDN, not only as one of the edge delivery networks that we rely heavily upon, but also as, for example, an origin shield using the Media Shield product. But being in media, there isn't one CDN that's ever going to reach every user as performant as every other user. There are geos that require specialist CDNs, and even delivering into private networks. So getting to a place where the Bytecode Alliance, and we generate something that can be given to a large proportion of the CDNs out there is critical to making edge compute a realistic piece of day-to-day computing on kind of media platforms, in my mind. And getting more storage on the edge is really important as well. I think data at edge is a great step forward on that. But yeah, if we're going to do more complex manipulation, that means we need data stores that are as close as possible to the edge as well.
I agree with Phil here that data at edge will be important, as well as the maturation of developer tools and operational tools. Developers. I think is the mantra. So I want to see great tools for building an operating logic with computed edge as we build more and more complex services on this platform, these capabilities that require access to data. So, data at edge is going to be very important as well.
So what I would love Fastly to do and to enhance computed edge, in many cases, similar to what Pablo and Phil were saying, I think data is key, and enhancing data on edge, being market capabilities, taking edge dictionary to even a further and more complex or more complete, if it's larger data or other data types, will help bring more applications to the edge, will help provide more stateful applications. The other thing that I strongly agree with Pablo is about dev tools. Dev tools, because it's all about developers and enabling developers to build more applications, the ability to deploy easily, the ability to integrate to dev studios, and the ability to debug and optimize performance and analysis, because it is becoming a critical part of the application, is another key role that I'm looking forward to see. One last thing, and it's more on my angle within this panel, as a vendor partnering with Fastly and offering services on the edge to customers that are using Fastly, building and enhancing this environment to be more vendor friendly or more vendor safe. For instance, the ability for us as a vendor to have access to data on the edge that is limited to us without giving us access, for instance, with a key to the entire application of the customer, to the entire data store of the application, so that we're not breaching any privacy or not by mistake potentially getting access to any service that the customer may be having. and limiting the access only to the module that we would want to enable for the customer.
So let's talk about the future. Based on your personal experience and the perspective you bring from your industries, where do you see the serverless market heading in the next 5 years?
I think, to touch on what I said earlier, I think, interchangeability is critical. But we deploy a lot of apps in serverless platforms that aren't you're just executing little bits of code at the edge. For example, we work with platforms like the Cell to build more of our application layer, more things like our marketing site and things like our actual dashboards and things like that are built there. And I think getting to a place where we can deploy static sites into platforms like this, so that's become really, really interesting. And getting to a place where the ecosystem grows, obviously being able to put together more componentized offerings, right? Things from different vendors that you can plug together that create in a more plug and play manner.
I see there being a transition from the building blocks that we have now, which are really exciting, to complete product and service offerings. I see the emergence of an ecosystem of serverless and computed edge products and services. Customers will be able to enable or pay for, at edge third-party products and services. That may be built on the Fastly platform and available through a marketplace. That'd be really exciting. You could pick out functionality enhancements that you want for your business, and perhaps. In the future, and solutions will be portable across serverless platforms. I think that would be really exciting as well. So we're going to see complete solutions. We're going to see a marketplace, an ecosystem being built out rather than just building blocks. And, we're going to see the edge being used to build out these solutions rather than just enhancing underlying apps. For example, I think, the WordPress of the future will probably be built at the edge.
I would like to differentiate between serverless in general and serverless on the edge or computed edge. We are seeing a big transition already in the last couple of years to serverless application in data centers or within the cloud vendors, where they do have access to data and to data stores because they're already running there. And I think the ability of the edge to add these capabilities and make it more and more applicable to that will help transition this kind of payloads and applications to the edge. And I think this will be a very exciting moment where these two motions can converge, or for the developer perspective, there won't be any difference between serverless in a data center and serverless on the edge. I think that will present great opportunities. And the other thing, to continue on what Pablo was saying, is the ability for vendors and for other open source modules and libraries to be available so that developers can stitch up modules and build applications faster, either by integrating more components or by leveraging third-party vendors on the edge to simplify application and to help the developers, to help you basically build whatever the logic that is unique to you, and not necessarily implementing a lot of logic that is common for many other services. I see that as a similar transition to what we've seen on front end, as more and more code is running on the front end, where front end developers can leverage a lot of vendors to integrate capabilities on the browser and to utilize open source libraries so that they can write less code and show more functionality and move faster.
I wish we could keep going, but it looks like we're out of time. Thank you, Pablo, Phil, and Ido, for sharing your thoughts today. Some of the things that you spoke about, like performance, agility, extension of VCL, complex logic at the edge, these are core tenets of what we're building, and I'm really glad that you highlighted them. So I really enjoyed the conversation, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day.